The Dorian Conquest. About the year 1104 BC, a new wave of immigration, or invasion, came down upon Greece from the restlessly expanding north. Through Illyria and Thessaly, across the Corinthian Gulf at Naupactus, and over the Isthmus at Corinth, a warlike people, tall, round-headed, letterless, slipped or marched or poured into the Peloponnesus, mastered it, and almost completely destroyed Mycenaean civilization. We guess at their origin and their root, but we know their character and their effects. They were still in the herding and hunting stage. Now and then they stopped to till the soil, but their main reliance was upon their cattle, whose need for new pasturage kept the tribes ever on the move. One thing they had in unheard of quantity: iron. They were the emissaries of the Hallstatt culture to Greece. Hallstatt, a town in Austria whose iron remains have given its name to the first period of the Iron Age in Europe. The hard metal of their swords and souls gave them a merciless supremacy over Cretans and Achaeans who still used bronze to kill. Probably from both west and east, from Elis and Megara, they came down upon the separate little kingdoms of the Peloponnesus, put the ruling classes to the sword, and turned the Mycenaean remnant into helot serfs. Mycenae and tyrants went up in flames, and for some centuries Argos became the capital of Pelops' isle. On the isthmus, the invaders seized a commanding peak, the Acrocorinthus, and built around it the Dorian city of Corinth. The surviving Achaeans fled, some of them into the mountains of the northern Peloponnesus, some into Attica, some overseas to the islands and coasts of Asia. The conquerors followed them into Attica, but were repulsed. They followed them to Crete and made final the destruction of Knossos. They captured and colonized Melos, Kos, Thera, Cnidus, and Rhodes. Throughout the Peloponnesus and Crete, where the Mycenaean culture had most flourished, the devastation was most complete. This terminal catastrophe in the prehistory of Aegean civilization is what modern historians know as the Dorian Conquest, and what Greek tradition called the return of the Heraclidae. For the victors were not content to record their triumph as a conquest of a civilized people by barbarians. They protested that what had really happened was that the descendants of Heracles resisted, and their just re-entry into the Peloponnesus had taken it by heroic force. We do not know how much of this is history, and how much is diplomatic mythology designed to transform a bloody conquest into a divine right. It is difficult to believe that the Dorians were such excellent liars in their youth of the world. Perhaps, as disputants will never allow, both stories were true. The Dorians were conquerors from the north, led by the scions of Heracles. Whatever the form of the conquest, its result was a long and bitter interruption in the development of Greece. Political order was disturbed for centuries. Every man feeling unsafe carried arms. Increasing violence disrupted agriculture and trade on land, and commerce on the seas. War flourished. Poverty deepened and spread. Life became unsettled as families wandered from country to country, seeking security and peace. Hesiod called this the Age of Iron, and mourned its debasement from the finer ages that had preceded it. Many Greeks believed that the discovery of iron had been to the hurt of man. The arts languished, painting was neglected, statuary contented itself with figurines, and pottery forgetting the lively naturalism of Mycenae and Crete, degenerated into a lifeless geometrical style that dominated Greek ceramics for centuries. But not all was lost. Despite the resolution of the invading Dorians to keep their blood free from admixture with that of the subject population, despite the racial antipathies between Dorian and Ionian that were to incarnadine all Greece, there went on, rapidly outside of Laconia, slowly within, a mingling of the new stocks with the old, and perhaps the addition of the vigorous seed of Achaeans and Dorians with that of the more ancient and volatile peoples of southern Greece served as a powerful biological stimulant. The result, after centuries of mingling, was a new and diverse people in whose blood Mediterranean, Alpine, Nordic, and Asiatic elements were fused. Nor was Mycenaean culture entirely destroyed. Certain elements of the Aegean heritage, instrumentalities of social order and government, elements of craftsmanship and technology, modes and routes of trade, forms and objects of worship, ceramic or Tauridic skills, the art of fresco painting, decorative motives and architectural forms, maintained a half-stifled existence through centuries of violence and chaos. Cretan institutions, the Greeks believed, passed down into Sparta, and the Achaean assembly remained the essential structure of even democratic Greece. The Mycenaean megaron probably provided the ground plan of the Doric temple, to which the Dorian spirit would add freedom, symmetry, and strength. The artistic tradition, slowly reviving, lifted Corinth, Sicyon, and Argos to an early Renaissance, and made even dour Sparta, for a while, smile with art and song. It nourished lyric poetry through all this historyless dark age. It followed Pelasgian, Achaean, Ionian, Minian exiles in their flight migration to the Aegean and Asia, and helped the colonial cities to leap ahead of their mother states in art and literature. And when the exiles came to the islands and Ionia, they found the remains of Aegean civilization ready to their hands. There, in old towns a little less disordered than on the continent, the Age of Bronze had kept something of its ancient craft and brilliance. And there, on Asiatic soil, would come the first reawakening of Greece. In the end, the contact of 5 cultures, Cretan, Mycenaean, Achaean, Oriental, Dorian, brought new youth to a civilization that had begun to die, that had grown coarse on the mainland through war and plunder, and effeminate in Crete through the luxury of its genius. The mixture of races and ways took centuries to win even a moderate stability, but it contributed to produce the unparalleled variety, subtlety, and flexibility of Greek thought and life. Instead of thinking of Greek culture as a flame that shone suddenly and miraculously amid a dark sea of barbarism, we must conceive of it as the slow and turbid creation of a people almost too richly endowed in blood and memories, and surrounded, challenged, and instructed by warlike hordes, powerful empires, and ancient civilizations.